Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Dadas Show, coming to you from Wama Africa here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. As our name suggests, the Dadas Show aspires to promote the spirit of sisterhood and unity. We create a safe and open platform for women all over the country to be able to discuss issues pertaining to their health and well-being, to their lifestyle, to their careers, and even their families. So today's topic, we will be touching on something that is very sensitive, and very many women, actually even men, do shy away talking about it. Infertility is often described as a very lonely experience. And of course, this is only made worse by the discrimination and the stigma and the unwarranted embarrassment that comes with it. So there's obviously no way to describe the overwhelming pain and frustration associated with wanting to bring forth, trying and really trying and failing to bring forth a child. So our topic of discussion today, we will be delving into infertility and barrenness. Every human being has the right to the highest attainable standards of mental and physical health. Couples and individuals have the right to decide the number, the spacing, and how many children they would want to have. Infertility immediately negates the realization for couples and individuals to have this, which of course brings forth the reason for us to create awareness about infertility, because this is actually stopping a human right. So today we shall have a conversation with some very brave women who have a story for us, and we should also talk to a fertility specialist who will give us an insight into this. So as always, we would want you at home to take part in this conversation by going on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. Share your thoughts, words of encouragement. You can also give us your feedback on this show or any other show that we have already aired before. Before we get into today's topic, let's have a look at the following feature.
Infertility is an ability to conceive after regular intercourse as a couple for more than 1 year. For pregnancy to occur, every step of the human reproduction process has to happen correctly. For pregnancy to occur, every step of the human reproduction process has to happen correctly. The steps in this process are: one of the two ovaries releases a mature egg. The egg is picked up by the fallopian tube. Sperm swim up the cervix through the uterus and into the fallopian tube to reach the egg for fertilization. The fertilized egg travels down the fallopian tube to the uterus. The fertilized egg attaches or implants to the inside of the uterus and grows. Infertility is real, stressful, and sometimes embarrassing when you don't have the right support system. The problem of infertility in Kenya has for long been an issue that is mostly blamed on women.
When you are married and you do not have kids, people start saying stuff, asking questions.
Primary infertility is when a couple is unable to conceive in spite of having unprotected sex for 12 months or more, while secondary infertility is when one is unable to conceive or carry a baby to full term after having previous successful pregnancy. Fertility Point, an IVF clinic, shares some of the causes of infertility in women that includes polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, ectopic pregnancy, ovarian cysts, fibroids, blocked fallopian tubes, recurrent miscarriage, irregular periods, and secondary infertility. Modern medicine and science has often come in handy for couples struggling with infertility. Adoption is, however, the less expensive alternative. The other being assisted reproductive technologies such as vitro fertilization, embryo transfer, gamete intrafallopian transfer, zygote intrafallopian transfer, and frozen embryo transfer. These technologies also apply to oocyte donation and surrogacy.
So, welcome back. And joining me on my panel is a group of very special individuals who will be discussing the topic of the day. So, right next to me is Hazel Gachoka Karaoke. Thank you so much for joining us, Hazel.
Asante sana.
And right next to her is Madam Seila Waki.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And finally, we have our fertility specialist, Dr. Rajesh. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to sit on the Dadas Show panel. So to get the ball rolling and to obviously, for just those who are joining us today, to put everything in context, I'll start off with you, Dr. Rajesh. Can you introduce us and what you do? And my first question would be, what constitutes as infertility and what are the causes of this?
So I'm Dr. Rajesh Chaudhary. I'm a lead IVF consultant from Fertility Point. So defining infertility, which is a global health problem, though it is not limited only to the health problem. Infertility is something like which is a disease of the male and female reproductive system, defined by failure to achieve pregnancy after 12 months of unprotected regular intercourse. This is a definition of WHO, but we have to customize this definition because 1 year time we can give to someone who is younger couple, but someone who is 35 plus, that 1 year should be reduced to 6 months, and someone who is trying at 40 year, 3 months is enough. So if the woman is not able to conceive within 3 months, who is 40 years, then she should sought infertility treatment.
Okay, thank you so much. I think thank you so much for putting everything into context. So we did mention about having some brave, wonderful women here with us who are going to share their journey with us. We'll start off, of course, with Hazel. Thank you so much. I applaud you for your courage to come and sit on this panel to discuss a topic that most women actually shy away from. And I'm so glad that you're actually here with us. So please share with us your story.
My story is a very difficult one. It started off with so many problems, but in the beginning, I thought it would be very easy. I started thinking, I'm 40, oh my God, I have to have kids. Just like Dr. Raj said, when a woman gets to 40, the time limit is really, really short. You need to speed up and have your children. So at 41 is when I met my husband, and we decided now we're going to try and have kids. I got pregnant naturally within a very short time. I was so excited, and I was like, hey, here I go, now I'm finally pregnant. It was so easy, just like I thought. But within 6 weeks, I miscarried, and I didn't know what was wrong. They said it was a blighted ovum, something to do with the chromosomes not being right. There were too few or too many, and there was nothing I could have done about it. So I went through a D&C. I waited again, and then at 43, I got pregnant again naturally. And at that time, my husband was like, oh, don't worry about it. Wait until 3 months, then you can go for a checkup. But something kept telling me, let me just go get checked, because you never know. And sure enough, when I went for a check, I was pregnant. There was a heartbeat. But the doctor was really worried because he said that it was a very weak heartbeat. So I went back after a week, and sure enough, there was no heartbeat. So again, I had to go through a D&C. And that's when I started knowing something for sure is wrong. I keep miscarrying, and something keeps going wrong. So that's when I started getting like different scans to see what was going on with me. And they found a fibroid. And the fibroid was just sitting on top of my uterus, and it was preventing me from getting pregnant. And the doctor said, even if you get pregnant, the baby cannot grow in you because it's a big one, and it's pressing down on your uterus. So that's when I started seeking the options of surgery. I got my first surgery done when I was 43. And then I thought, hey, smooth sailing, now I can get pregnant again. But as the doctor was saying, as you get older, it gets harder to get pregnant. Then at 44, they found another fibroid, and this one was inside my uterus. And so now they had to go and do a surgery and take it out. And the doctor who took it out told me, don't waste any more time. Just go and do IVF, because at 44, you know, now your eggs are those ones of who are begging them, and it's really difficult. And that's exactly what I did. I did my first IVF at 44, and I was so blessed to be pregnant the first time around I tried it, yes. So I got a baby boy, and it was very stressful pregnancy because I'd had so many losses. The first trimester, I was like, oh my God, is this baby gonna survive? The second trimester, they call it the honeymoon stage, but still it was really, really difficult. And then the last one, if the baby didn't move, I would take like a cold drink. Yeah, I'm panicking. Yeah. I'm putting a flashlight. I'm like, this baby has to survive. Yeah. So it was really, really a stressful time. So come baby number one, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Then, sure enough, when the baby was 1, I started saying, now we need another baby.
Yes. You know, you're like, this one cannot grow alone.
Exactly.
You need to get him or her a little bit of company. Yes.
So then again, we tried, and then baby number 2, we were lucky with IVF also. Second time, we became positive again. But I'm saying it fast, but it was not an easy journey. All the injections, all the emotional stuff that you go through, the financial aspect of it. A lot of my surgeries were not done in Kenya, so it was really, really expensive. And having to do them in a foreign country with no support system.
With no support system.
Yeah, my family wasn't there. I had a surgery done in South Africa, I was alone. I had a surgery done in China, I went back to my hotel room. And I also had a surgery done in the US. All of this was just far away, no family, I'm alone. There's no one to even just say, you know, come and hang out with me or anything. So that part was very expensive, very emotional, taxing.
Wow, thank you so much, Hazel. You know, first, of course, congratulations on your babies. I'm so happy. It's one of those stories that you hear and you're like, okay, yeah, it was difficult. We're not discrediting that, but it has a happy ending. We all love happy endings, so I'm really happy. Thank you for hanging in there, because like we started off and we talked about, you know, infertility being described as a lonely journey, and she's explained that, you know, she's put it into context, you know, how some people don't even have, you know, the energy to share. So thank you so much. We'll come back to you, but I want to jump back to Dr. Rajesh. When we were talking about her particular case had, you know, there was fibroids. So what are the different types of infertility? I mean, first of all, how common is infertility? I know there are all these factors, but how common is it, and what are the different types of infertility that are there?
We'll have like 15% of the couple will be suffering from infertility. So there are like 48 million, as per the WHO data, 48 million couple are suffering from infertility, and 186 million individuals are having this problem. So the types of infertility can be like primary infertility is someone like a woman who have never got pregnant before, and then she is struggling for having pregnant. So that is called primary infertility. Now there is another category, like someone who have already been pregnant before, and now then she is struggling. That is called secondary infertility.
So her case was a primary infertility because she had never gotten a child before.
Her case was secondary because she had pregnant before, unsuccessful.
Yeah. You're right. So, yeah, it was. She did conceive. She did get pregnant.
That also depends from at what point she has started the checking for pregnancy. Like for the first time when she got pregnant, and if she had to wait for more than 3 months, and then that had become a primary infertility.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Like I mentioned also, there's also somebody else on my panel. There's the lovely Seila. I'm equally in awe of your strength and the way you are able to bear it all. And I know this is not your first, interactive media where you are talking about your story, and I'm always in awe of your strength. So kindly share with us your story, Seila.
Wow, strength me, wow. But I thank God. My name is Seila Waki, as you've been told, and a lover of God, a wife. I am part of Waiting Wombs. I sit on the committee of Waiting Wombs, where we handle women and men. On Facebook, we're about 8,500 as we speak, so it's an issue, a big issue. My story, so I get married, and excitement, oh my gosh, the babies will be so cute. Yeah. Because hey, yeah, he's cute. So yeah, we were ready. But as we came back from our honeymoon, we realized that my mom-in-law is unwell. So I have to step in as her primary caregiver. And that took over our lives. Like, she became our baby. So there was you weren't really thinking of bringing someone else into the world. Let's make sure mom is fine first. So it wasn't here in our faces. It was, oh God. Then mom passed away 2 years later, and now we have all the time. So yeah, what, Ati? Oh, okay, silence. You're not feeling sick? Oh, okay. And this month, you got your periods? Oh, okay. Then you realize, something is not right here. But then again, that didn't bother us at all. So I was in a season of a lot of loss. My best friend passed away through cancer. A very close cousin of mine lost her son, like newborn, and he passes away. And I was very involved in their lives. So you're burying one person, go rest for 3 days, come bury the next. And it was during the second burial that my husband, because we're meeting at Lee Funeral Home, and I was the one who was running the show. And my husband says, let's just check in the doctor, because you're tired, let's just pass in.
There could be something.
Yeah. He's a pediatrician, by the way. So let's just pass in and smile at my colleagues and see if they can PIMA you quickly. Just get your vitals and make sure you're okay, because it's been a very stressful period. Yeah. So then we go in and they find my pressure is and I mean, that's strange. But the funny thing is, I wasn't showing symptoms that, you know how people say, oh, pressure, my head hurts. You know how the common symptoms would be, and you're like, check your pressure. I didn't have any of that. Fast forward, counseling became therapy. Like, you must go for counseling and report back to the doctor that you and your doctor need to report back to the one who took my vitals, just to say everything is okay. You're going through your therapy sessions, because it's a heavy season. The therapist, on talking to us and finding out, hey, 2 years, no children's. Something is amiss here. Yes. Sent us to an obs-gyn that she knew, a fertility doctor that she knew. And that's where we found a girl has PCOS, a girl has endo, a girl has adenomyosis, a girl has fibroids. Like, all these things were just happening inside of me, and I was living okay. I was not in any pain per se, only during my menses. Yes. And that's a point I realized pain is not normal. I will say it again, pain is not normal. So don't go through painful menses and just say, it's just cramps. Have yourself checked, something is wrong. So that's when I realized, hey, things are thick here. And we started treatment, fertility treatment. Did 5 IUIs, that didn't work. I'm sure Daktari will explain what the big terms I am using. We did 5 IUIs, that didn't work. Took a break. And then during COVID, 2020, 2021, we decided to try IVF. Did 3 rounds. My first round was canceled because I had too much progesterone in my system. Second round, yay, got a pregnancy positive, but it was a low positive, so after 2 weeks they stopped growing. And then the third one, it didn't even smell. There was not our monkey, they didn't even, yeah. And yeah, just to cut my story quite short. After the third one, we just decided, I'm done, because the effects, as she said, the effects are crazy. For me, they just went to the extreme end, and I was in a very bad place from 2020, 2021, the worst years of my life, because just the emotions and the hormones and the moods and So just decided, you know what, God, it's okay. I'm done trying. I'm done trying. I'm done stressing. I'm done thinking, you know what? Let's live. Let's just live and have fun on it. So that's where we are at.
Wow. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, your story is very touching, you know, and the journey that you've gone. And like I said, when I talk strength, I did mean strength. The fact that you're talking about it, and I'm here choking up tears, and I'm just like, what happened to the way I'm gangster? You know, so I really do commend you for your strength to come here, you know, because like we said, not all the stories will be as beautiful as Hazel. You know, there are people who are still trying. Like you said, if the group is made of 8,000, that means that it's something that it needs to be, you know, talked about. And we talked about wanting a child and wanting to procreate as a human right. So infertility should be approached, you know, as a negation to realizing a human right. There's a human right for every single person. And sometimes I wonder if it gets the enough attention that it deserves, but we'll get there. So back to you, doctor. When we talk about Sheila's case and many other cases, what are the risk factors, you know, for female infertility, and how is infertility diagnosed? Because you see, like hers was almost a fluke. You know, she's feeling some type of way. Let her go and see. Yeah, are there symptoms? Well, how do you know? So how is it diagnosed, and what are the treatment plans?
Let's talk about the risk factor first. The biggest risk factor in this is the age. When women fertility is bound by age. So they are born with fixed number of egg, unlike men where the testis produces sperm every day. Endlessly. Yeah, endlessly. So women are born with a fixed number of egg, and after adolescence, with every menstrual cycle, and these eggs are spent out. And by the time woman reaches 35 years, almost 80% of the eggs are gone. So, and by the time she reaches 40 years, only few hundreds eggs are remaining. And it's not only the quantity, also the quality of the egg, they comes down. So when they get pregnant at advanced age, then there is a risk of like blighted ovum, or miscarriage, or baby born with certain chromosomal abnormalities. So apart from age, there are other risk factors like obesity. Now obesity is a risk factor that can predispose women to another disease like hypertension, diabetes, which can further complicate the pregnancy or the process of the fertility. Apart from that, the sexual transmitted disease like use of certain environmental risk factors are there, and lifestyle, smoking and alcohol. These are the all risk factors. So now coming to how we diagnose infertility, what are the symptoms of infertility? For women, the infertility symptoms can be, most of the time there may not be any symptoms. So when there are symptoms like having irregular cycles or too much of bleeding or having no period at all, then women should not be waiting for even 1 year of time. If these symptoms are there, they should not be waiting Like somebody may be having PCOS that can lead to irregular cycles. So better not to wait for even 1 year. So these symptoms, in men, there are also a few symptoms like having low sex drive or decrease in sexual drive, or having a small testes or a small penis. They all can point out to certain problem that is there. And coming to now the diagnosis. Now, first thing what the couple has to do is to come to the fertility clinic or visit a gynecologist and go through a certain blood test and a scan and HSG. The main idea is to find out where is the problem, whether it is in male or female, or if the problem is combined, or sometimes it can be unexplained, like having all the tests done and then there is no problem found. So even that can happen. So in women, mostly we do a hormonal test, and apart from the baseline test, and then we see whether the ovary is ovulating or not. Second, whether the fallopian tube is patent or not. And third, we see whether the uterus is okay or not, whether there is any adenomyosis or endometriosis or fibroids, and how is the womb lining where the embryo gets attached. So these are the main tests. They are basically these main reproductive organs that has to be checked. And then in male, there is very simple test that is a semen analysis, where we see how many, what is the count and motility and morphology of the sperm. So after going through all these tests, then the treatment is started from there.
Hey, thank you so much, and thank you for explaining it. I believe everybody has been able to learn a thing or two, you know, and I like how you've articulated from the risk factors to the diagnosis all the way till the treatment, of course. So I'm going to come to you, especially when we're talking about treatment, Hazel. You've talked about having multiple times, you know, where you had to, you had to travel to another country, you had to do this, you had to do this. I can imagine that can, that can bring in, financial strain. And of course, when there's financial strain, emotional strain is normally right behind it. And then, of course, there's the physical strain. And of course, all that can also affect the relationship. How did you and your husband, how are you able to stick it out, when all of this was happening? Because we've seen marriages split because of infertility. How did you guys, are you guys soldiering on?
Yeah, thankfully he was very supportive. And one of the things he had even told me is that we actually don't have to have a child. He was like, if this is so tough, because most times people don't talk about it, but men are really affected. In fact, during my miscarriages, he took it harder than I did. He was more affected, although he didn't voice it out as much. So he'd look at me and he'd be like, you're struggling so much. We actually don't really need to, if it's that big. But in my heart, how when a woman has decided, I am doing this, I am getting a baby, come rain, come shine. So for me, I never gave up. I put my heart to it. I was like, definitely, this is something I definitely want to go through. An IVF cycle is about 500,000 shillings. Yeah, everything from the tests the doctor was talking about, to the different medications you have to take, to the lawyer fees, there's a therapist, there's an embryologist. There's just this whole big package that you have to go through. And at the end of the day, that's about, on average, that's how much it costs. Luckily for me, before my first child, I was still employed. So I had health insurance. And so for my 3 surgeries, I was covered by the company where I worked. And so it didn't land up costing me a lot. But for the IVFs, we had to pay for it. Emotionally, it definitely took a toll on us. But again, my husband was so supportive. He was like, we really don't have to do this if we don't have, it's not a must. But for me, I was like, let's do it, please. Let's have the babies. And today, he's the first one to say, I'm so glad you pushed for it, and even for a second one, because it just brought us so much joy. Yeah.
Wow, I think that's a really good place to actually go on break, and I'm so happy as we marinate on everything that we have just we've learned this morning. So let's go on a short break, and then we'll come back for the question and answer session. Don't go far away. Welcome back to the second part of the Dadas show, which happens to be my favorite segment of the show, where my interactive audience gets to interact with my panel. Whatever questions, it's a good way to see if they've been paying attention. So to start us off, we have a question from Bilha. Bilha?
Thank you very much. My name is Bilha Gitau, and I work with Fertility Point. And my first question goes to Seila. I'm so impressed, and your life story is very touching. But I wanted to understand, how do you go about stigma? Infertility, it's a taboo. People don't talk about it. So how do you, go along with the society?
That's a good one. That's a very, very good one. So what has helped me in my 12 years of infertility, and that I can laugh and smile and you would not know that I have a burden on my shoulder, help me? No, that's not the life I have chosen to live. First things first, I have a smart mouth. Oi. Yeah. You will not bully me and I stand there and keep quiet. I will take you to your place, if not my father's altar. Yeah, I will. You ask me a silly question, I will respond with a silly answer. You ask me where are the children, I will tell in my knees, because that is where I am praying. So please help me pray with me. I have learned to defend myself, protect my space. When you do that, then you create a boundary and people don't jump in as they feel like. They mind their mouths, they mind their thoughts around you. Number two, I have learned to just live. Just be happy, just live, because really, I can't waste away 12 years sulking over what society thinks about me. Those are 12 years gone. If I don't live and be happy and just take charge of my space, I wouldn't even be sitting here right now. Number three, I will go against the grain and I will talk about it. What you share has no control over you. That's something I believe. If I'm in a problem, if I'm going through a problem and I share it out with someone, that confession has no shame over me. It's no longer a burden for me. Now I've given it to you as well. You see, you're asking me a question, because now it's your burden as well. So you won't find time to look for a reason to bash me. So I have chosen to speak about it. Any opportunity I get, and that's why I'm here, I will speak about infertility and I will tell people, look at me, look at you, spot the differences. Wow. I probably look better than you. So, okay. Yeah, and we just live. So just standing up for yourself, it goes a long way against stigma. It's helped such that now, even amongst family, no one will bully me. Another thing, having a strong support system. My husband is amazing. My father-in-law, you cannot dare. My family, my immediate family, you can't just come and start speaking negatively about me. They will give you your place. So that is also a good thing. Find a space that works for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually inspirational stuff, and I think everybody has noted a thing or two about, just the self-awareness, knowing yourself, defining, or is it redefining what makes you happy? It may not be perhaps what you had set out or what you thought was going to happen 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but the fact remains that any day above ground is a good day. So here you are, make the best of the opportunity that you have been given and soldier on. Seila, thank you so much. You're an inspiration to so many. So still on that tangent, we're going to take the next question, which is coming from We have the next question, which is coming from Julia. Julia has a question.
Thank you so much, Ashiko. My question, first of all, my name is Julia Thitai, and my question goes to Dr. Rajesh from Fertility Point. I want you to probably elaborate the types of treatment when someone is diagnosed with infertility. What are the current types of treatments that people can be able to seek? And in the event that they cannot probably carry a baby, are there any other procedures that maybe they can be able to do, and just elaborate on what has been discussed by the panel? Thank you very much.
The treatment for infertility will depend on the cause of the infertility, what has been diagnosed. So it can be as simple as with medicine or without medicine as well, like someone who is having problem in having ovulation, and if she is a bit obese, so she can get ovulation with simply reducing her weight, which can balance her hormone, and then she can get pregnant without any medicine, just by optimizing her body weight. Apart from that, if the problem is in the ovary, say if there is a, let's go by the organ wise. Like there are three reproductive system in women, like ovary, fallopian tube, and uterus, and then in men the semen. So if the problem is in the ovary, like there is no egg at all, sometimes a woman can face a premature ovarian failure at very young age. So she can go for donor egg. We can replace that part. If there is a problem with ovulation, like in PCOS patient, so we can balance the hormone with medicines, and then can give ovulation-inducing medicine to go for the ovulation, and then can try naturally or with intrauterine insemination, so for a few times. Now, if the problem is in fallopian tube, like sometimes it can happen, it is in fact is the most common cause of infertility in women, the blocked fallopian tube, maybe because of the infection, or maybe because of the previous pelvic surgeries, which can lead to adhesions of the fallopian tube. So in that condition, the only treatment left is either the tubal surgery, which I won't recommend, because that depends on the fineness, how fineness the surgery has been done. And even after the surgery, there will be just a 30% chance of getting pregnant after surgeries. And then IVF will be the main treatment for such condition when the fallopian tube is involved. Now let's come to the uterus. Now uterus, they can have a variety of problem, again related to the age. As long as the women are young, this problem may not be there. Like as we age, certain disease, they evolves, like diabetes, hypertension. In the same way in the uterus, certain disease process evolves, like fibroids, adenomyosis, if they are causing infertility, and if especially when the fibroids are very big or very near to the womb lining, then that can disturb the fertilization and implantation process. In such case, first she has to go through the surgery to remove the fibroids or the adenomyosis. Now the problem can also be in the womb lining, where because of the infection, it can go into the infection or some scarring because of that DNC process, like very vigorously done, that can scar the womb lining. So the fertilization can happen, but it cannot implant in the womb lining. So in such condition, if the womb lining is a severe problem, which can refuse the implantation process, or very early repeated pregnancy failure, then surrogacy may be an option. For the men, now there can be a low sperm count or say no sperm count. So if it is no sperm count, what doctors do then to find out whether is there any possibility of getting a sperm in the testis or not. If it is so, then we generally retrieve the sperm from the testis. That is a process called TESA PESA, and then we use that sperm. We inject that sperm in the egg harvested by IVF, and then we make an embryo and then we implant that. And if the semen count is low, then we can manage it with some sperm booster medicine or with IUI. So this is how the treatment goes with medicine, with either surgery can be adjunctive, intrauterine insemination for someone who is having a low sperm count, but not very too low, and IVF for someone the fallopian tube is blocked, or say IUI is not working out, or say there is advanced age and there is no time to wait, like someone is traveling outside and there is no time. They come with us, doctor, I have just 30 days left. We are in Kenya. So the best we offer the treatment that gives them the maximum chances of pregnancy, that is IVF.
Okay. Thank you so much, and extremely insightful. Thank you so much, Daktari. We will move on to our next question that is coming from Becky.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am Rebecca Mutie. I am here as Sheila's friend. I have a question to Sheila and Hazel. At times we talk about, you will share your experience, what you have gone through, but us as your friends, as your family, we don't know what to say, we don't know how to act, we don't know what not to say. So I'd like you to tell us how we can be there for you, because at times we will assume, just say sorry. Sasa what is sorry? Sasa what am I saying sorry for? For you it might not be anything, but for me I've done everything. So I'd love for you to share with us how we can stand with you, how we can be there and be a support system and not be part of the people that will make you feel even more stigmatized. So yeah, thank you.
So one of my uncles said to me, I'm praying for a whole baby, which was so consoling to me because there's so many things that can happen in that whole process. I've never forgotten that when he said that to me. The other thing is, sometimes you just want to be left alone. Like, don't say anything to anybody. But prayer is a big thing. When you come and say, I'm praying for you, I wish you good luck, because it's just such a difficult time. And for the person who's going through it, you just want to be sort of left alone. Let me go through this journey. Let me go through it by myself. I didn't even tell my mom what I was doing, because after my first 2 miscarriages, she had a total meltdown. So now when I started IVF, I was like, I'm not telling anyone until the baby comes, because so many things can go wrong. But that's a great question. Just tell somebody, I'm praying for you and I wish you the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sheila?
Please don't be awkward. Just be okay.
Don't be weird.
Just be you. Yeah. Treat me as you would treat me if I had a flu. Yes, like I'm not at my gosh, why? No, imagine I'm leaving. Yeah. I'll still buy you lunch. I'll still wash clothes. Our lives continue.
And you're thriving.
And we are thriving. So stop being awkward around us. If you have a question, it's okay to ask. Please ask. What you don't know, don't assume and summarize for yourself. Ask me, I will tell you. Reason I say that is, her space of infertility is not my space of infertility. What she's gone through is not what I will go through. So don't, just because you've watched Hazel on YouTube, you come assuming my issue and space is the same as hers. I could flip on you and slap you because you have said something that you shouldn't have, or done something that you shouldn't have. So it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to just sit and stare at me. Yeah. And just say, imagine, I just want to be with you. That's it.
Yeah. So we have a question from Kenya Lynn.
My name is Kenya Lynn, and my question is to Sheila and Dr. Rajesh. The cost of infertility treatment, of just going for the checkup alone to determine if you're infertile or not, is so expensive. I was checking online and it ranges from maybe 200,000. So, and I'm sure there are people out here who are infertile and come from poor backgrounds. So are there organizations that can help them overcome the infertility problem?
The cost of the treatment will depend on what treatment you require. So if you require just an IUI, so that is relatively a bit cheap. Yeah, it's around not that expensive as IVF. Around in our center, it's around 35 to 40,000. Sometimes most of the time, in fact, almost 80% of the time when couple come, they can, particularly in younger age. So remember that when they come, they certainly have some problem. Most of the time, this can be dealt with without IVF. But they have to be at the right time, at the right place. Sometimes they go to wrong place and then they waste their time. In the meantime, the egg reserve is compromised. Ultimately, they will need to go for IVF. So now for IVF, which is a bit expensive here because of so many other factors, and in fact IVF involves a lot of things like involvement of so many expertise here, the IVF specialist, the embryologist, anesthetist, and then the equipments that are required for IVF, the consumables. It's not from one vendor, it's from 10 vendors, and they all have to be imported. So overall, the cost of the IVF in Kenya, what I have seen is around 400, around on and roughly 400,000. And the worst part is like there is no guarantee of the success. Now, if you know that this treatment is going to give you the result that what you are wanting, then one can be encouraged to invest on that amount. So success rate is around like 40 to 50, 60%, again depending on the age and other factor. So the treatment can go further higher than that. If that first cycle is failed, then again you may need a second or third cycle of IVF. So one has to be financially prepared about that as well, right from the age in their late 20s or early 30s. They have to prepare about, they have to think about the planning. The main problem what I'm seeing here is the lack of awareness, when to get pregnant, how to seek help, where to go. That lack of awareness further, complicates the things. So one thing is like preparing oneself for the financially for the fertility. Like we are investing our money on insurances for other health related, but not in the infertility. So one have to plan about that. I may suffer from infertility. So is there any insurance company that are like giving this insurance coverage? So why not to go for that? Second, like this, when a couple come for the treatment, when we say that you need IVF, this much is cost, the next question is, who will take the burden of the treatment? Like most of them both are earning. So that has to be also to be addressed. So one is like taking help of the insurance, preparing one for financially, and for most important is not to expose one to the risk of getting infertility. Yeah.
Let's move on, Dr. to you. What about now the intervention for families that cannot be able to afford, or couples that cannot be able to afford that 400,000?
It's a sad space. That is why we are here. That is why we make noise. That is why we are creating awareness and speaking in every space that we are allowed to. Because we don't have organizations that will help to say, I will cater for the burden of Kenya Lynn's family. We don't have that. So I come from waiting rooms, and what we have tried to do for our members is get into partnerships with different hospitals, different doctors, and we get like deals. So instead of paying 400, you'll probably pay 300 because you're from waiting rooms, and we've had that conversation with the doctor before. So those are the small areas that we are trying to help as waiting rooms, but as a general space, we don't have. We don't even have companies that cover infertility because it's too high risk as insurance for them. As Dr. Ri has said, it's not guaranteed. So as we speak right now, we don't have. Countries like Nigeria have organizations that do help out women or families that need to go through IVF and stuff like that, but we haven't gotten there yet. The government just recently have discussed a bill, but it's just a bill. It's not reaching to that person who needs it, mashinani. Yeah, so yeah, we're still in that space. We don't have insurance companies, as I said, that take that up. And it would be nice. Even in HIF, it's only for civil servants, and they're given a cutoff. So if you're not a civil servant, even if you're paying NHIF, you still won't get that facility. So we have a long way to go as a country in terms of assistance and awareness.
Oh, okay.
The population of Kenya is almost 50 million, and what my estimate is the data says 15% of the couple, they suffer from infertility. Out of 10 couple, 1 or 2 will be suffering from infertility. Yes. And out of 10 couple who are having infertility, 2 or 3 will be needing IVF for the pregnancy. So with that data, almost 2 million couple are at risk of having infertility, and out of that 200 couple will need IVF in Kenya. But in reality, what is happening, hardly 2,000, 3,000 IVF is happening in a year in whole Kenya. Maybe 3,000 or 4,000 IVF. So that is a huge demand and unmet demand of that. How that has to be addressed, that there should be a policy on that. Because, when someone is suffering from infertility, it's not just a health issue. There is a mental issue. The productivity of that man or woman goes down. That issue has to be addressed by either organization or or government has to take some initiation, making this problem aware to the couple, the awareness, and then affordability. This has to be addressed.
Yes. I do agree that definitely it has to be addressed. I mean, because if we're looking at, I like what he said, infertility does pose other issues, like mental health, productivity. So if we are having members of our society who are not working at their zenith potential, then of course that translates and affects the GDP. So it has a ripple effect. We're going to get a comment from Hazel before we move on to our last question of the day. Yes.
It's actually piggybacking on what he said about the mental. One of the things I've seen, some people have gone for IVF the first time and then it didn't work. And then they didn't have money to go back for another session. So they sort of changed their lifestyle. They reduced their stress. There's some stress things you can take, the ashwagandhas of this world, the maca powders, the moringas. You exercise more, you do hot yoga. These are things that I had to change in my life even before the IVF became successful. I tried really hard, but because of my age, I decided, let me just do IVF. But if I had more time in my life, those are some of the things that I've tried to incorporate earlier on if I knew. Drink more water, blood circulation, exercise a lot, eat healthy, don't drink, don't smoke, those kinds of things you were saying. Because mental is a big, big thing of it. When you're stressed, getting pregnant is almost impossible.
What we need to approach, first of all, as a nation, is to understand that it is a human right for a man or for a woman to want to procreate. I know our numbers in population are high, etc. It does not mean that the people who are less fortunate do not have the urge to have children and they do not deserve. So first of all, this is a call to the government of Kenya and the powers that be. kindly intervene in this situation. I know there are multiple things that need your attention, etc., but we need to look at the grand scheme of things. If we have a population of people who are constantly stressed, at some point, something will have to give. If children are not being born, if people are not coming out, and we're just talking about a certain status. If people are not getting kids, if people are not being happy, if people are not being progressive, if people are not working to their full potential, then the chances of us being able to maintain a GDP is going to be close to impossible. So let us have that as an outlook to the government and the powers that be, to the society. Let us support women like Seila. If Seila wants to live her life, if Seila knows what she's gone through, let us give her her space. Let us maintain boundaries. Let us be supportive. Let us get our heads out of the ground by asking certain questions. Her definition as a woman is not based off the fact that she has children or not. She's an individual. Our definition of a man is not based off because he can sire or he cannot. He's still an individual. So let us stop the discrimination. Let's stop the stigma for people like Hazel, who've been able to come out, for women who are being brave and they're talking about what they have gone through. Then let us support them. Let us stand hand in hand with them. If we're in a place where we can assist, then let us assist financially and otherwise. So on behalf of my production team in KBC, my location partner, Wama Africa, and of course my wonderful panel and audience, we thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. So I will see you same time, same place next week on the Dadas Show. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. Bye for now.